Hi everyone, in today's video I'll be showing you how to draft a pattern for a basic shirt. Right here is my pattern paper on which I have marked out the bust line, which is measurement from the shoulder to the bust, the waist line, which is measurement from the shoulder to the waist, and then the hip line, which I'm also using as my hem because I want the shirt to reach my hip. From this center front line, I'm going to be marking 3 inches. This 3 inches is going to serve as the allowance for the button stand and the overlap. This line here is the new center front line from which we will be taking the horizontal measurement. Now I'm going to be putting in my bust measurement as well as my hip measurement. The bust measurement is 32 divided by 4 is 8 inches. Hip measurement is 36 divided by 4 is 9 inches. Now I'm going to be adding an ease allowance of 0.75 inches here. And then I'll be drawing a straight line. At the waistline, I'm going to be coming in by 1 inch just to give a bit of shaping to the waist, and then I'll be using my pattern master and my marker to draw out a curve. At the top of the paper here, I'm going to be marking out my shoulder measurement or my back measurement and also the neckline and armhole. For the armhole, I'll be coming up from the bust by 1 inch. I'm drawing this across. This is the armhole. At the top of my paper here, I'm going to be marking out the shoulder measurement. Shoulder measurement is 15 inches. 15 divided by 2 is 7.5. Now I'm going to be connecting the 7.5 at the top of my paper to the 7.5 I marked at the armhole. From the top of my paper, I'm going to be coming down by 2 inches to represent the shoulder slant. And then I'll be connecting it to the top edge of the new center front line. Now I'm going to be measuring from the shoulder slant line to the armhole line to see what I have. That's 6.75. Just find the midpoint, and then at this midpoint, go in by 1/2 inch. Now I'm going to be drawing the definitive armhole line. So I'm going to be connecting this point here to this 1/2 inch going inwards to the armhole line. From the top of the center front line, I'm going to be marking out my neck measurement. For a small size, I'll be using a neck depth of 3 inches and a neck width of 3 inches as well. And I would be connecting these points with the pattern master. I'm also going to mark this 3 inch neck depth at this old center front line because remember the 3 inches here is just to serve as the extension of the front for the button stand and the overlap of the shirt. Now I'll be extending this broken line that we got to the armhole line, and I'll be adding a 1 inch allowance to the sides of the shirt. This is going to represent the sewing allowance. Shirts usually have a design in which the sides are higher than the center, so I'm going to be coming up by 1.5 inch at the side seam of this pattern, and then I'll be connecting it to the center front. Remember that we left a 3-inch extension between the new center front line and the old center front line. This is supposed to serve as an allowance for the overlap of one side of the shirt over the other side of the shirt, and also to account for the buttonhole as well as the button stand. I'm going to be dividing this 3-inch extension into 3 equal parts. Each part will be 1 inch wide. This is the front pattern, and now I will be cutting it out. Now I'll be folding this to demonstrate how it will be folded once we cut on the fabric. We can see that after folding it twice, I have a 1-inch extension from the center front line. This 1-inch extension is going to serve as the buttonhole stand on one piece of the front, and then the button stand on the other piece of the front, and then they would overlap. So this is the front. Let us go into the drafting of the back. The drafting of the back pattern is relatively simple. Now I'll just be marking out my length measurement. You can use this same pattern to draft a shirt dress if you want. The only difference is that the hip line will not serve as the hemline in this case. The hemline has to extend beyond the hip because the shirt dress obviously has to be longer. Now I'll be marking 0.5 inch from this point to serve as my reference line for the center back. Just like I did for the front, I would be marking out the horizontal measurement at the back as well. The bust divided by 4 is 8. Remember, I added a 0.75 allowance for ease. The hip measurement divided by 4 is 9 plus 0.75. Take in 1 inch at the waist. I'm going up from the bust line by 1 inch, drawing a line across to represent the armhole. Now I'll be marking out my shoulder measurement at the top of the paper here, which is 15 divided by 2 is 7.5, and I'll be marking that 7.5 at the armhole line as well, joining the 2 points with a straight line. Then from the top of the paper, I'll come down by 2 inches to serve as the shoulder slant, and then using a broken line to connect it this way. From the shoulder slant to the armhole, I'll just be using my pattern master to draw out the armhole. Now for the back, I'll be using a neck depth of 0.675 inches, and just like I did in front, a neck width of 3 inches. I'll be connecting these points with a line. At the sides, I'll be adding a 1-inch sewing allowance. At the side, I'm going to come up by 1.5 inches from the hip line to get that curved design. And I'll be using my pattern master to get the shape I want. Now for some shirts, at the hem area, the back is usually longer than the front. So if you want your back to be longer than the front, then you could add like some extra paper to the edge here and then extend this curve way below this hip line. But I think I'm fine with it like this. I could just extend it to the hem like this. One thing that shirts usually have is this particular overlap at the back. So in order to achieve this overlap at the back, or this extra piece of design at the back, I'll be coming down from the top of my paper by 6.5 inches. And I'm going to just draw this out like this and name it overlap. Now I'm going to cut out my back pattern. This is the back pattern and this is the front pattern. This is not compulsory, by the way, but for most shirt designs, the back pattern usually overlaps the front pattern at the shoulder area. As you can see, the back usually comes forward to meet the front. In order to get this, I would be joining my front and back pattern at the shoulder and taping them together. From the shoulder line of the front pattern, I'll be measuring 1.5 inches downwards and connecting the points with a straight line. With my paper scissors, I'll be cutting through these points. Now we have the back pattern and the front pattern. For this point, I'm just going to use my pattern master to cover out the neckline a bit. Now we have the front pattern and the back pattern. When the front and back patterns are placed on each other with the sides connected, then the back would overlap like this on the front. Some shirts have darts, so if you want, you could add darts to the pattern. Usually darts are on the back, but if you want, you could place darts on the front pattern as well as the back pattern. All you'd have to do is account for the dart width at the waist and then add this to your measurement. If I was to add a dart to this, for example, I want my dart to be at the back. I would mark out the nipple distance divided by 2, which is 8 divided by 2, and that is 4. So I'm marking out 4 from the center back line, and then I would connect the points with a straight line, just like a regular dart is drawn. From the waist, I will come down by about 3 inches for the lower limit of the dart, and I'll come up by 1 inch for the upper limit of the dart, and then my dart width will be 1 inch as well, so 0.5 inch on either side, and then I will connect these points like this. 1 inch that I'm making the dart width will be added to the waist measurement. We're done with the front. I have the back pattern. I'll be using another pattern paper to trace out the outline of this overlap. So this is the overlap that I traced out, and then I'll be cutting this out. When I'm cutting on fabric, I'll cut this overlap piece on fold, add sewing allowances to the sides, and then once I have my back pattern ready, I will just fold this. I would have added a 0.5 inch allowance to account for this fold, by the way. So I'll fold it over, fold it this way, and place it on top of the back, and then sew it down. If you would like to see a video on how to sew a shirt using this pattern I made, please let me know in the comment section. If you have questions about any areas in which you might be confused, you can also leave it under the comment section, and I can assure you that you would be responded to. If this video has been useful to you, kindly give it a thumbs up, comment, share and subscribe to the channel. Thank you very much for watching.